Over the past few months, through a closed preview program, many fans of The Crew have had the unique opportunity to test out Ubisoft's newest entry to the series, Motorfest. And finally, I can now share some of my own gameplay here to the world and let you guys know what I'm thinking about this very interesting new mashup of sorts of TDU and Horizon inside The Crew. Now, most of the gameplay content here is going to be focused around the beginning of the game, which has you driving in a handful of different racing disciplines to showcase these new playlists. These are kind of like mini campaigns or career focuses of a sort, and there are quite a few of them you'll be able to play on launch, including Off-Roading Addict, Motorsports, Vintage Garage, and Made in Japan. I do have a bit of footage from all of these today, so we'll be splicing in a little bit of everything, but the two that I spent the most time on were definitely the Motorsports and Made in Japan playlists, so you'll see a bit more footage from a few of those events. Alright, so for my thoughts, I want to start, as I often do with videos like this, by talking about Motorfest's handling. And for me, it's really all good news. The Crew's handling has never really clicked for me in the way that some other games have. It's always felt a bit unpredictable and sloppy, but some real major improvements have been made here to dial in Motorfest's handling, while also keeping it quite distinct from something like Horizon. Where Horizon shoots more towards the simcade side of things, Motorfest is still going down a more arcade-focused handling path, but now the vehicles do feel much more responsive, planted, and predictable, with real weight and momentum behind them, and I feel that each car has a lot more individual character. This, to me, is arcade handling and the Crew's model finally done right. It obviously hasn't gone fully wacky like, the Asphalt games, for example, or Mario Kart or anything. It still keeps a foot grounded in reality, but does so while amping everything up and making the cars really exciting. To me, this is quite possibly the biggest improvement over previous Crew games, and the thing I might be looking forward to the most. I really think with Motorfest, I can finally truly enjoy the driving experience in the Crew. I wish I could have spent time with more cars and more upgrades, but from what I was able to experience, again, I'm quite happy. And speaking to that, one of the places where good arcade or even simulation handling can really fall apart is the drifting. But again, I can happily say that it feels pretty good here in Motorfest. Sadly, I don't have any great footage to show you of the drifting, but even in this stock NSX with all the assists on, you can still kick the rear end out and keep it pretty controlled. You can see here the stability and traction control kicking in to bring the car back under grip, but with those settings off, you can of course keep slides going much longer, and again, for an arcade, slightly simcade handling model, I think it's really quite solid, and again, a major step up over previous games in the series. The drift handling is still maybe a bit more grippy than I'd like. I think a bit more weight shift and momentum would really perfect it, but it's possible that with the right cars and upgrades, that could improve too. And again, as a whole, I'm really impressed with all these physics and handling improvements. Now, another major aspect of Motorfest that I've got to point out here, just in case it's not obvious, is of course the return of Toyota. This has been a thorn in the side of so many racing games over the past 5 or so years, but fortunately Motorfest was able to secure a licensing deal with Toyota, and we will have them back. As you can see here, of course, I'm driving the Mark IV Supra in the intro to the Made in Japan story playlist. And I think this is a great spot to talk about what makes Motorfest unique and where it shares some similarities with other games. Now, being set on the island of Oahu and having a car festival theme, I think the Test Drive Unlimited and Forza Horizon comparisons are obvious here, and I feel like they're fair comparisons to make, but I don't think these comparisons take anything away from what Motorfest still is. I liked the island and social features on Oahu in TDU, and I love the festival vibe of Horizon, but I think in some ways Motorfest is doing these things quite a lot better. For one, as you can see in this gameplay, the set pieces are really striking and dramatic. This race especially, with its super synthwavy neon Tokyo aesthetic, really drives home the message that Motorfest seems to be delivering of, hey, let's just make this a fun arcade racer. And we saw this to an extent in the Crew 2, but I think with so much of Motorfest, it really does seem clear that fun is the major priority. And I think the modern gaming scene as a whole sometimes needs to be reminded of that focus. And speaking of focus, Motorfest is definitely a more focused experience than the Crew 2. I can't speak too much on the map, but of course this game takes place on the island of Oahu instead of the whole mainland USA, and it's done in kind of familiar Crew game style where it shares a lot of similarities to the real island while also being different and distinct in many ways. Don't expect a TDU style recreation here. I am admittedly sad to leave the US mainland, but again, bringing it back to the focus, I think this game map lets Ubisoft pack much more of just about everything into a more dense and lively game world. And the environments do just look great. It's super vibrant, well colored, and really detailed. You know, I think the Crew and the Crew 2 do still hold up fairly well, but this is a super obvious step up. And again, going back to this theme of focus, we also saw with the Crew 2 the addition of other vehicles besides just cars, like planes and boats. But throughout the life of the game, everything kind of just crept back towards focusing on the cars. And I'm happy that they've kind of maintained that focus here in Motorfest, and given us a more car-centric direction with the variety of car playlists instead of trying to do a lot of everything involving a motor. And to bring it back to the playlists and car variety, these playlists do have some great unique gameplay style. For example, you can see in the Motorsport playlist that I've got to manage tire wear and take pit stops when needed, and in the Vintage playlist, I don't have access to a minimap or GPS or nitrous, which is another small but great bit of gameplay immersion to give Motorfest's racing that variety. All in all, from what I've been able to experience so far in the Crew Motorfest, there is a lot of DNA or influence from other games in the same genre. I don't think it's wrong to say that this is kind of like a mashup of TDU and Horizon inside the Crew, but I also don't think that's a bad thing at all. I feel like in many ways, Motorfest is taking some of the best elements and what made TDU and Horizon and older Crew games so good, and then packing that into one more focused experience. And personally, after now having some time with the game, I am so excited to finally jump into the full release on September 14th. So thanks everyone for watching this little gameplay tease and a bit of a thoughts video. I hope you enjoyed it, and of course, don't forget to check out the official coverage from Ubisoft's showcase today, as well as the coverage from all the other awesome creators out there that I'm sure have some more cool gameplay to show you guys. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.